This is The Responsive Lab, a podcast that talks about fundraising, technology, and nonprofit leadership for modern nonprofits.
We have conversations with practitioners, teachers, and experts so you and your organization can leave behind outdated tactics and embrace responsive fundraising. Welcome to The Responsive Lab.
Clay, thank you so much for coming on the show today. We are looking forward to our conversation.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here, always.
Yes. Hey, let's just start from the beginning. Share a little bit of your background with folks. Just give an overview of your journey and kind of what you're up to today.
Sure. I started as a fundraiser in the mid 90s. Have seen all of this before in some ways. But I've spent about 30 years, both being a consultant and working frontline. So I've done everything from database admin to chief development officer. And for the last 5 years have been running my own firm, Next River Fundraising, Strategies. I focus on individual giving and annual fund and all those good things. So that's me in a nutshell.
That's awesome.
This is an off-script question, but I have a question. You said that you've done this, you've been through this before. I'm curious, like the AI revolution, has there been something else in your decades-long fundraising career where you also were like, oh my gosh, 3D printing is going to take over fundraising?
Everything is changing.
I was, and I can't name the platform, of course, but the organization I was with was one of the first 25 beta testers for online giving forms in the .com, right? So, and it's funny, I was listening to, there's a story on NPR today talking about the AI bubble, right? And they were going through, is this really a bubble or not? And they were listing other similar, and they said the .com bubble. And I remember distinctly multiple conversations of, should we be online? Is this .com thing going to happen? Donors are never going to respond to email, So yeah, it's, and I jokingly say I've entered the old man yells at cloud, phase of my career, that reference from The Simpsons. So in a way, yeah, we have seen it before. And in other ways, no, everything's new. This is all different. So yeah, a little bit of both, I guess.
Yeah. I was trying to think of for myself, and I was like, I remember when we thought 3D print, we were all going to be 3D printing everything. And then I don't know what happened to 3D printing. My cousin prints like little cartoons and stuff with his printer, but nothing besides that.
Yeah, who knows?
Yeah, I feel like it's a good reminder, though, actually, as we start the conversation. I know we're going to get into AI and talk about all of that, and that's good. We need to and lean in on all of that, but a reminder that this isn't the first time something's come along that's been like, oh, this might change some things, and we might need to figure out some new things. There's a reality to that conversation, but then also a reality of there's some things that are always true, and that were true 30 years ago will be true 30 years from now.
Yeah.
Too long, didn't read, not that you shouldn't listen to the rest of it, but what never changes is human behavior and human motivation, and that this is fundamentally a human business.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that whether we're using cuneiform or, slate tablets or, AI, right? Yeah. People are always people.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we're going to wrap up the episode there, Clay, and thank you. No.
Sorry.
No, I appreciate it.
Okay. So getting to the topic of AI in nonprofits, what does AI actually change when it comes to nonprofit data?
When it comes to data, it both changes everything and changes nothing in that. Well, I always say that donors are data, and data is human, right? So it doesn't change the need for having good quality, accurate, actionable data. If we're talking about AI in terms of using it for analysis, and in terms of using it for trending, in terms of can it predict anything, et cetera, it comes down to garbage in, garbage out is still 100% true. I do think, and it's been at the top of my critical list for years now, but I do think it elevates it even more to the top of the critical list to pay attention to data accuracy, data quality, and data security. This I think is going to be the real thing that hits us, is how are we keeping data secure, tight, and appropriate for usage.
Yeah. I want to jump into that too, because that is such a a massive piece. And I know as a lot of organizations explore AI, and I'm a part of some of those conversations with people, data privacy, security, like that always comes up. So what are some things that fundraisers and leaders should be thinking through before just maybe adopting tools, or as they adopt tools, what should they be considering?
At the high level, that we need to start valuing data as an asset at the same level we would any other asset. Our buildings, our technology, our people, anything that we consider an asset, data needs to be at that same level. I've taken a couple of organizations through, and I really applaud them for going this route, and the board for going this route as well. I've taken a couple of organizations through creating a data committee as part of the board, a data oversight committee. One of the things that we know from GDPR that was required in the EU is that there has to be someone at every organization who has the responsibility for data. And that needs to be very true for us. Who is in charge of the data? Who is the person, right? And that person needs oversight by the board of directors. So creating a data committee, creating a data oversight committee, bringing it to that level of governance that the board is also seeing this as an asset. And of course, here I'm talking about, all data. So we're talking program data, we're talking service data, we're talking donor data, but donor data needs to be a part of that conversation, and it needs to be a part of that mix as well.
Yeah, and you mentioned earlier too, talking about like the quality of data and the reality of the impact that makes. I know that there's a growing expectation around AI to improve efficiency and to like, how do we get better and how do we maybe do more with less in a smaller team? But I'd love for you to speak in and maybe go into a little bit deeper depth about how the quality of the data affects whether that can actually happen and whether AI can realistically deliver that.
So, I mean, it's great. I literally just wrapped up a conference call, just before joining you, going through a 10-year giving history, because we were looking for key trends on renewal and lifetime value. And there's been, in 10 years, I think there's been 5 or 6 different, database administrators. That's relatively typical. I think we see that might be a little high, but we do see turnover in that staff, particularly in fundraising departments. Well, everybody that's come in has instituted a different fund and campaign code structure. So we can't be sure that looking back over 10 years, that this fund from this year is the same kind of fund from the year before. AI can't either, right? We can't figure it out because there's no documentation on it. AI can't make that extrapolation either. So if you're using AI for that level of analysis, it can only analyze.
That word analyze, analysis, that one always gets me. I got to think long and hard about what context am I using it. So forgiveness for the rest of the episode.
Good. Yeah, we're talking AI and data. So my language side has shut down, right? I can't do both at the same time. Yeah, no, I mean, AI can only analyze what we give it. So if we don't have the detail, if we're looking for, I don't know, just, making up a donor giving history, and we don't have accurate donor names, it can't come up with that. It can't extrapolate that, oh, hey, this is a human, this is an organization, or this is a foundation grant, or whatever it is. So it's only as good as what we put in it. And we cannot expect AI to fill the gaps that we've allowed to grow.
You're giving me PTSD about source codes. Like, I feel like I could name every source code. Like, oh, if it starts with an L and then it's 2 numbers and then it's like, oh, and then you change it. It's like every fundraiser can relate to that.
Yep.
I'm sure you
100%.
can. You probably know source codes of every nonprofit organization.
Funny story. Kind of funny. To me, it's funny. I was with one organization, and like 5 years later, I went to a different consulting firm and was going through some data, and I started seeing these codes, and I went, I ran those campaigns. So it had been my vendor years before, and we were going back through some historical data that didn't have the organization attached to it. I'm like, wait a minute, I know these codes. And it was, sure enough. Yeah. It sticks with you.
You said garbage in and garbage out earlier, which, we all understand, but how should nonprofits think differently about data cleanliness and data quality now that they have AI? Like, should the bar be higher? Like, what does that look like now?
I think we have to really look at and frame it as any information that a donor provides us is the story they're telling us. We talk so much about telling stories too, right? And better storytelling. And that is all true and accurate. We don't pause enough to think about what are the donors telling us, and what they're telling us is in the information they provide, not just their gifts. But if a donor voluntarily gives first name, last name, spouse name, address, email, phone, that is a huge signal that, hey, I'm giving you everything there is to contact me because I want to be in. I want to hear from you. If they're just giving us last name, if they're whatever it is that they're giving us, as we look at that as the story they're telling us, and because the second aspect of that is trust. Yeah. And we see this every year with the Edelman Trust Barometer that comes out. Over the last few years, we saw trust in nonprofits declining. Fortunately, the most recent one, I think it was last year, showed that it was increasing, but the public still trusts small business more than they trust nonprofit to do what we say we're going to do. So we have room to grow there. But I think that story they're telling us with what they provide is also an indicator of trust. They're trusting us to take care of their information, right? They're trusting us to do what is right with their information. And certainly as we see more and more and more data privacy, data hacks, rants, all of this stuff happening with data security, when somebody's giving us their name and their contact info and their credit card number, they are trusting us to take care of it and to take good care of it, because the next stage of that is in where we are, we expect personalization. It's no longer a nice to have, it's a must have. If I'm sure you two are the same way, you get something without your name on it and you distrust it immediately, because we expect our name to be in emails. We know we expect vendors and places we work with to know things about it. So it's trust, and then it's using that information to reflect back. Heard you, we see you, you belong here, we know you, right?
I think one of the things that's really interesting too, that can be kind of a next step for people, is to try and see what is the story that we already know from our donors. And, we talk about, like for us at Virtuous too, we talk a lot about personalization. We talk a lot about creating a personal connection, but part of responsive fundraising is also suggesting the right next step, which is unique for the individual. But sometimes the right next step is, hey, maybe they'll take a step further in sharing who they are and sharing what they, the next step is not always give a gift, but it's, they've kind of increased saying, this is who I am and why I care about you and your organization and your mission. And I think that's a really good call out.
I 100% agree. Especially if we're talking about with first-time donors, that first interaction is, I don't know you, right? I don't know you. I don't know that much about you. Something triggered this gift. And I mean, let's be honest, not everybody's going to be that into you, So bless and release some of those donors that don't give you more information, and quit worrying about them. But those donors that are, it's like that meme that goes around with the guy and the girl, and the guy's looking back over his shoulder, and there's, right. We're all worried about these new donors, or these donors out here that we don't know, versus the ones that we have that have been telling us again and again, because it's the information they provide and it's their giving history. Your point, Scott, made me think there's so many reports now of when's the best time to make a second ask, right? And there's a lot of data that supports it. It is sooner than we think it is, but the best time to make a second ask is when the donor tells you what the best time to make a second ask is, right? We're so afraid, I feel, of asking our donors what they want. And one of the best things that we can do is, how do you want us to communicate with you? How often do you want to hear from us? Do you want to hear? There is no, can I just jump up and down on this one for a minute, please?
Please.
There is the soapbox. There is no data. There is absolutely no data that shows that channel of action is the same as channel of inspiration. In other words, just because somebody gives online doesn't make them an online donor. Just because they give through the mail doesn't make them a mail donor. It just means that's the channel that inspired them in that moment. I think we can do more about about when do you want us to communicate you? What do you want to hear from us? How often do you want to hear from us? Do you ever want us to solicit you again? Okay, fine. Right. Like, well, fine. Okay. Thank you.
First off, hot take, Scott. Clay and I should debate about first time gift channel and what that means for the future, because we have like slightly different opinions. I'm not going to get into it now because we're about AI, but like that would be a great conversation for us to have.
That'll be the next two. I'll moderate it, but we'll have a friendly debate.
Yeah. I want to go back to data cleanliness.
To be clear, I didn't say first time. I didn't necessarily say first time.
It's already started. Yes. It's already started.
Okay. Anyway, sorry. I digress.
I want to go back to data cleanliness for a second, because if I was in the fundraising space, I would think, hey, now I can use AI to like clean up my duplicates, clean up my naming issues, all of those things. But at the same time, as an AI user myself, I also know that it literally hallucinates all the time. So how do you balance like, hey, yeah, we can use this to clean up our data, but also maybe we should be quite slightly cautious so that it doesn't say Dear Bob when we're sending it to John?
And no matter the size of the data set, if you're talking 10,000 records, 1,000 records, or 100,000 records, whether you're using AI to do it, whether you're using another tool, and we've had the tools for years now to do it, it requires some validation. I think what we forget about data cleanliness, and I think it's because there are so many priorities, and it's why I say we need to lift it to the level of governance and asset, is data just does things. We don't know, whether it's how it's, and I'm completely convinced. Like if you shut the door on a closet full of wire hangers and then you come back like 3 days later and you have 200 more wire hangers than you ever had, or none. I think data is the same thing. You enter it into the database. Who knows what goes on back there? Like there's gremlins or something, because data goes bad. Data ages. Things get messed up. They do. We accidentally hit the wrong button and something gets transferred. Data just happens. So I think there does have to be some intentionality, and there does have to be some manual process to it, even if we're using AI to do it. Well, I can speak to Virtuous specifically because I know it well. You all have very good tools that will point out duplicates, that will point out issues with the data. And making that a habit of using the tools that we have in front of us, and then any AI tools that we're layering on top of it, right? Approaching it with intentionality and with a plan is I think the way to do it. There is no set it and forget it. This is not Ron Popeil. We've got, we're not setting a rotisserie. We're managing people. And I take that back to what I said earlier. Every piece of data that you have is a person. That is a living, breathing, conscious, feeling, values-driven person behind that name. Yep. And the more you can look at that record and understand there is somebody behind this.
Yeah.
And every person, every name in this 10,000 file, that is a person, a real person. That adds some nurturing to it.
Yeah. Also, we got to quote that. This isn't a rotisserie. I feel like that's the best data quote ever. Clay, I'm curious. You have, such a good kind of broad view of different nonprofits, organizations, tools. What are the AI tools that you're most excited about for nonprofits right now?
I do think it's the ones that are adding efficiency. I think we've got some work to do with the LLMs that are providing copywriting and storytelling and so forth. I'm full on team rescue the M-dash. I used M-dashes before,
gone, Clay. I know.
And oh no, it's an M-dash. It's AI did it. No, it didn't. I learned M-dashes on a manual typewriter. God, I really am sounding much older than I feel, and I don't mean to, but I did learn M-dashes on a manual typewriter. So I think we've got some work to do there. I think really the key is going to be efficiencies. And I'll be honest, I have started using AI as my, you both are going to be so mad at me. I'm sorry, but I'm a one-person shop. I use AI as my project manager and my marketing director, right? What to post when, right? Kicking out schedules, giving me ideas. Now, I've spent a ton of time training mine. So I invested a huge amount of time in training it. But I do think it's the efficiencies that are going to really impact us the most first, because I think that's really where the nonprofit sector needs so much and where fundraising needs so much is in creating efficiencies.
Yeah. Yeah. I think one of the things that has, that we've seen as well regarding that is like the amount of tasks and things that are done that just become like, well, this is just how we do it, or this is just what I have to do. Like one of them that actually I find so interesting. So in Virtuous Momentum, syncing emails into the CRM is something that happens automatically. And while that seems like, are you like leading the, the presentation on it with that bullet point? Like maybe not, but that's one of those things that people come back and say like, that has been so pivotal. And actually it's this annoying thing. It's this thing that I would have to do. I would do this and this and all these steps. And it was sort of like stuck in the way of like, this is kind of how we always do it. But then when you realize that new way of efficiency, you're like, wait, this can be done automatically. I feel like it kind of opens to a whole new world where people can then like, oh, this is actually helping me, and actually saving me time.
We do not rise to the level of our goals. We fall to the level of our systems. And where AI can improve systems like that is huge, because there's so much dither that we all have to do as part of this work. That said, though, one of the things that I think we need to be very intentional and strategic about is determining what is dither and what isn't. And I'll jump on another soapbox here. And Carly, I'm pretty sure you'll agree with me on this one. Writing thank you notes is not busy work. Writing thank you notes, sending thank you notes is fundraising. And I get really wound when I hear folks talk about, you can have your AI do things that you don't want to do, like write thank you letters. No. Have AI do something else. But there's the intentionality of AI is sitting down as a team, sitting down as an individual and going, what is dither and what is important? And sometimes we value things differently. What can we have AI do that it can do accurately and automated? What do we keep because it is human, because it is necessary, because it is about the relationship versus about the system itself?
Yeah.
Well, first I had to quickly Google the word dither because never heard that word in my life. But
it's a good word.
But I agree with you once I Googled it. Kind of circling back to what Scott said and something that we talked about earlier about that donors expect like this personal connection and for you to really understand them. If I was a fundraiser, Momentum would have been like my first AI purchase because it would have removed
100%.
So many of the pain points that I had of like, wait, what was that 100%. Person's name and child's name and pet's name and where do they live? It like takes all your notes that you would have spent an hour going through. And again, this isn't writing thank you notes. This is like going through and saying, what are all the notes I put in the CRM and what's the summary of this donor before I call them and when do I talk to them next and whatever. Still, the calling, the thank you note, all of that is the human interaction that's important. But it takes all of that administrative work that you would have spent hours doing and simplifies it. And that's really the best use of AI. And that's why I think Momentum is such a great tool.
Well, I come into a day and before I even log on, there's 800 things demanding my attention.
Yeah.
So having something that says, okay, Clay, today you're going to call these 5 donors. You got to do this, boom, 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 and sort of lays out your day for you. This is what you must do, right? Anything like that, that's bringing that forward and simplifying any of those processes that used to, 100% agree that can be a game changer for us.
Yeah. What about the pressure that some feel to adopt AI quickly? I think that it's obviously a very prevalent conversation, but sometimes there can be this feeling of like, oh, we just got to use AI. Like, we got to use AI. I got to figure it all out. I got to learn it all. Like, how can fundraisers evaluate whether this tool is solving a real problem versus just adding another tool or unnecessary complexity?
Does it support your goals or is it a bright, shiny object? Can you put it into your arsenal? I'm sorry, I hate these analogies that we have, but can you put it into your toolbox? There's a better way of saying it. Can you put it into your toolbox, use it efficiently, use it well without much ramp up time? One of the things I think that drags us down is, we got to use AI. So we go out and we get it and then realize we have to train on it. We have to understand it. We have to implement it. It's not necessarily an intuitive thing that we can just open, out of the box and go. I think we also, AI, that's a very big term. There's a lot underneath that umbrella. And so I will very often say, well, should we be adopting AI? What do you mean? Tell me what you mean by AI. And, we can go through the tools like Momentum, right? And do you mean something like that? Are you talking about adding ChatGPT? Like Claude, what is it that you mean by AI? Number one. And then number two, it's what do you want it to do? That, to me, that's the biggest question. What do you want it to do? And then can you manage and do it well? I don't know that I use this in presentations all the time. I don't know if this is 100% true right now. But there was a time when the highest grossing, most revenue generating fundraising platform was Twitch, because you had all these gamers that were doing fundraising, and people were going out and going, we got to get on Twitch. No, you don't. Do you know what it is? Do you know how to use it? Like,
yeah.
Right.
Who do you know? We play video games all day long. And, yeah.
Our donors are 85, but our donors are 85, but we should for sure get on Twitch.
Yeah, there's a different Twitch happening in their life. It's not online.
Oh, it's so good.
Yes, right. So yeah, I mean, what do you want it to do, and can you do it and do it well?
Yeah.
Yeah, on that kind of that same note, so many nonprofits I think are overwhelmed by this idea of AI. I'm curious what you would recommend as like what's one practical step they can take right now that wouldn't be overwhelming to move them more into the AI enabled future?
Honestly, it's what I just said. Define what you want it to do. That to me is really the question. And I think you have to answer the question, will AI help me raise more money? That's number one, right? Well, if the tool that you're looking at can remove dither, can remove all of that stuff that drags us down, or it can do a thing that will move your way to raising more money, right? Cleaner data means more money. Okay, then it's worth evaluating. So I think step one is what do you want it to do? Secondly, what's the word? Rather than projections this year, I did, over the 12 days of Christmas, I did the 12 skills fundraisers will need for 2026. Because we can't control projections, but we can control what we invest in. And one of the skills that I think is going to be highest for fundraisers in this year and indeed is discernment, because there is so much information in the marketplace. There's so much information out there, and it's coming from a lot of sources. And I'm sitting here with the two of you who I know. Carly, I know your background. You've been a fundraiser. I know Gabe. I know Virtuous. I know where you all come from, right? And it's not to detract from any other platforms, any other vendors or anything out there, but we got a lot of noise in the nonprofit sector and in the fundraising space. And I think discernment is going to be a key skill to develop, to pause and really think, is this valid? Is it true? Is it helpful? Is this what I need? And take a critical look at things versus getting caught up in this is going to help me raise more money right now. And unfortunately, I think I do think our leadership kind of does go there sometimes. Hey, look at this cool thing that my friend did at this, university that did this. Okay, well, they've got a whole team that does that particular thing. So to me, it's about the critical thinking and the discernment of really, is this valid? Is this true? Is this right? Because if there is any ounce of oogie nature, right? This just feels oogie. Then that's a key. That's a clue that maybe this isn't right for me.
Yeah. Well, I know we could keep going, and we already have a part 2 planned where you and Carly have a friendly debate.
I love it.
But I would love, just as we wrap up, can you give people where they can go to connect further with you? I know that a lot of, I think your perspective resonates with people and is really balanced and helpful. So would you just give folks those next steps?
Thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. So finding me on LinkedIn is good. And if you're a fundraiser in the nonprofit sector, say yes. So following on LinkedIn, and my website is nextriverfundraising.com. So either of those places is where I am.
Awesome.
I highly suggest the LinkedIn follow. There's a lot of great content that Clay puts out and a lot of hilarious things that are helpful in my feed as well as I'm scrolling through.
Yes.
Yeah. Listen, this is a bit, I'm heading into wrap up, right? This is supposed to be a business of joy. We're talking about the best part of human nature. We're dealing with the worst part, right? Yes, our missions are tough in many cases, but this is a business of joy. And I think we need to bring more laughter back into it. And I think we need to maybe take ourselves just a smidge less seriously, and laugh about it. So I do try to bring that forward a little bit. Besides, if we can't laugh, we're all going to lose it, you know?
Yeah.
It's true.
Speaking of laughing, we have a mystery question we like to ask. We change it every time, and we all have to answer. So we're going to do that now as we close. What is the greatest? You have to share your opinion and back it up with true, well, it would be your opinion still, but factual opinions. What is the greatest cereal of all time, and why is it far superior than any other cereal?
Wow. That's boy. The problem is I just had it because I was having that nostalgic taste, and it's just not the same. But Cookie Crisp.
Oof.
Oh, I like
Cookie
Crisp
because Cookie Crisp, it's you get, like, it's part of a nutritious breakfast, right? And it brings back, for me, it brings back all those days of, the weekends, or, staying home sick and, watching The Price is Right. And, it has 12 essential vitamins and minerals. But you get cookie, you get cereal, like you get all of it together, and it stays crisp in the milk. So yeah. Now,
do you still eat that now?
I got to go with Cookie Crisp. No, God, no. My answer now is frosted shredded mini wheats, but that's,
Cookie Crisp for me growing up was a dream.
Yeah.
That rarely came true because I would ask every time, and it was always a hard no. So that resonates with me.
Yeah.
Carly?
Mine is Captain Crunch.
Good choice.
The texture of it.
I got the mouth toughness for that.
I was going to say the texture of it, very crunchy. Has a very nostalgic flavor for me. I don't even know what it is. It's like buttery and kind of sweet.
Fair.
Goes really well with milk, complements milk very well. I could even drink the milk after the Captain Crunch is out and it's still good. So those are my supporting facts, Scott.
Yeah.
As a kid, I was a very strange kid. Sorry to jump in, Scott, but boy, I'm afraid to admit this. I used to put Captain Crunch on bologna sandwiches.
I feel like I've heard that. I don't actually find it that odd. It's I don't know. I feel like I did all sorts of crunchy with a sandwich experimentation, right? Chips on this thing. I'm a little Captain Crunch. Yeah. No, I respect that.
Thanks. I appreciate that. I don't feel so alone.
Nope. Yeah. Mine would be Honey Bunches of Oats. And the reason is, and I'm talking current state. I'm not talking young Scott. I'm talking, I'll go have a bowl or 3 right now. But it's both this I think it's delicious. There's the sweetness that I coat the flakes with whatever that, stuff is. I'm sure is super, super good for you. And so there's a sweetness. So it's it gets that. There's that. I mean, talk about crunchy. You got granola pieces that are, granola is pretty far on the crunch spectrum, but there's just a legacy of marketing there where you kind of feel like I'm doing myself a favor. I'm gonna have myself Honey Bunches of Oats and
fair.
Really consider my health and my nutrition, and take it seriously. So I feel like it both solves my, shouldn't I have a bowl? It's the guilty part's gone, but then it just slaps. It's a delicious bowl of cereal.
There you go.
So,
All right.
well, we've established it. The next episode, hopefully we'll get all 3 cereals to sponsor. We can give out free boxes. We'll work on that behind the scenes. But Clay, so appreciate your time today.
Hey, appreciate you guys.
And,
this is great.
Yeah, and it's just we're super grateful for you. Always love these conversations, and appreciate it.
Feeling is mutual. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
The Responsive Lab is brought to you by Virtuous. We believe nonprofits deserve technology built to engage donors with the same personal connections and experiences they receive from today's leading brands.
Virtuous is an enterprise fundraising platform that unifies CRM, marketing, giving, and insights with AI to help build deeper donor relationships, automate manual work, and grow giving. Learn more at virtuous.org.